So my name is Christopher Veal. I'm a fourth-year medical student, soon to be hopefully first-year resident in a few months. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. Growing up, things were a little bit difficult. The household was not the most stable. We lost our house 4 times, 5 times. I honestly have lost count. And a lot of childhood trauma that I just never sat down to process. When you have these small things that in your life don't seem significant at the time, and when you're in a pressure cooker like medical school, it tends to become a lot more distracting. I will tell you, my mother did everything she could to make sure that she gave me the best education and the best living situation that she could have afforded me at that time, even if life couldn't do it for us. So why I came to medical school? If you read my admissions letter, it would come off completely different than what really got me to medical school. I was an art major in college. I was an art major. I only majored in biochemistry because a dean told me that he did not think I was going to be able to finish as a biochemistry major. So I double majored in art and biochemistry just to prove him wrong, which is a horrible way to go through college because I did not like biochemistry, and I still don't like biochemistry despite being a medical student. But when it came to advocating for communities like mine, the underserved, poor people, people of color, I wanted to be in a position where I could actually have a voice. That class, that experience early on, planted the seed. I think that the voice that doctors have is incredibly powerful. It's incredibly important because a lot of people take our word as law. You're a doctor. They trust you. That's why they come to you. When I was in med school, I had a lot of challenges. And I went into med school thinking that, okay, you did well in college, you're doing well, in life for the most part, you have all these experiences on your back, and now you're in med school. So this is, you're following that path. You're following that set path that everyone is supposed to follow when they go to medical school. But when I got into medical school, I realized that path sometimes is not nearly as linear as one makes it seem. You are now a very small fish in an ocean of water. And if you cannot adapt, you either literally sink or swim or get eaten. I would actually call it kind of a maze sometimes because you would do one thing thinking it's going to lead you in one direction and it leads you in a completely different direction. And sometimes that direction is the best direction and you had no idea because you were so fixated on the original direction that you had that you got lost. I feel like personally that is what happened to me. After marginally passing for a year and a half, I eventually failed a class. And so now I had to go in front of the advancement committee to plead my case. The way I was raised, asking for help was a sign of weakness. So I didn't ask for help. But unfortunately, that stubbornness did not serve me well in med school. At this time, I was horribly, horribly depressed. More depressed than I think I've ever been in my entire life. Transiently suicidal, still grieving over the loss of my best friend who had unfortunately committed suicide just 4 months before I started medical school. I just felt so defeated. And so, I wasn't seeing a therapist. I wasn't getting any mental health help at all. No one was helping me with my depression. No one thought I was depressed because I kept a good face. I was always smiling. I was always saying it's okay, everything's fine. When I went in front of that advancement committee by myself, I was 30 pounds heavier because I had gained 30 pounds in my first year and a half of medical school because I was so depressed. And I was just so scared of being kicked out of the school. And I remember saying to myself, Christopher, you cannot let this happen to you. You can't fail. You can't fail. I sat there, looked as confident as I could have looked. I sat there, I looked him straight in the eyes, said this will never happen again. How do I need to do to move forward? Now, of course, they wanted me to retake the exam, which I said, fine, I'll retake it. Give me the rest of the fall, finish my courses. During winter break, I will study for this exam, and then I will take it when I come back. There was no plan on getting help mentally, academically. I left that meeting. I remember it was the fall. It was pitch black outside, and I got into my car in the parking lot, and I just cried my eyes out. I had never had an experience so humbling in my life. Being that close to the edge was just something I just the pain was so significant I could hardly breathe. And that's when the first idea of killing myself came about. It was in that moment, after that meeting, in the parking lot. I had this idea in my head that, I couldn't fail. I can't fail. You just need to work harder because you're not working hard enough. Waking up at 4 a.m. every day and going to sleep at midnight, it's not working hard enough. You need to work harder than that. So I started working harder. I started getting less and less sleep. I stayed in Vermont during that winter break, and I remember spending Christmas in the Given building studying for both step 1 and this exam that I was gonna retake. And I came back, I took the exam, and I failed it again. And so I'll never forget this. I was sitting across the table from this dean, and this ringing sound started in my ear. It was like a tinnitus kind of thing. I've never had this ever happen to me before. And it just became louder and louder and louder. So loud that I thought it was literally happening in the building because it was just so loud. All I heard was this person ask me, am I sure I want to be a doctor? And when this teen asked me that, are you sure you want to be a doctor? Of course I'm sure. Of course that, I would not be here if I didn't want to become a doctor. This is a lot of work. I could have been to business school if I wanted money. This is a whole different thing. But to ask someone who has been giving the school everything he has, everything, and to really sincerely question that, after telling me I just failed an exam that I should not have failed, I just couldn't. I couldn't deal. I couldn't even imagine what was going to happen next. I just nodded my head, and whatever she was saying, I just said, okay, fine, And I jetted out of that office as fast as I could have. And I went into an enclosed stairwell. I dropped down to my knees, and I just cried. I just cried. And that pain was still there. That sharp, gout-wrenching pain that I had in that office was still there. It didn't leave. It actually got worse. I didn't know what to do to make that pain go away. I had no idea how to make the pain go away. I just wanted that pain to go away so badly. And so that idea that came after that advancement committee meeting, that idea that kept coming in and out of my mind throughout the entire semester. And honestly, throughout the entire 2 years that I've been there, after my best friend had committed suicide himself, that idea came back to my head. And so I started drying my tears, like I am right now. And I got my bag, I got my coat, and as I'm walking to my car, I am planning how I'm going to do this, like how this is going to end. And then because of the storm, I was thinking to myself, okay, well, it is a horrible snowstorm right now. People get in accidents in snowstorms all the time. People get into horrible crashes and die in snowstorms all the time. This is Vermont, it's common. My plan was to drive my car into the middle of Williston and Spear Street, into the traffic light pole at the fastest I could drive, the fastest speed I could go. And in my mind, I thought that by doing it that way, my mom and the family that loves me would think that it was just an accident. Like Chris didn't do this purposefully. He did this because he slipped on some ice. And something inside me, I'm not sure, some voice, it could be God, it could be my conscience, I don't know what it was. Something told me to call my best friend's mother, my friend who passed away before I started med school. Her and her husband had really opened up their hearts and home and resources to me after he passed away. They were basically the parents that I needed at that time. I had come out of the closet just before I started med school, and I hadn't come out of the closet completely to my family. My mom's side of the family didn't know. My dad's side of the family knew, and the people on that side didn't really take too well to my coming out. My dad especially, who I had stopped talking to at that point. It had been years since I had talked to my father. And so when Carla and Jim came into my life, they were like the support system that I needed at that point. People who got it, people who understood that, being gay was not just a phase. I didn't know why I was calling her. I think my conscience probably was telling me so I could save myself. But Carla was like, well, Chris, what's going on? I'm like, I'm good, Carla, I'm good. I'm fine. She's like, no, Chris, you don't sound right. Something's going on. You don't sound like your normal self. And so I finally just lit her. I just told her everything. I told her how depressed I'd become. I told her I just failed this class no one ever failed this class. It's like I was literally the only person that failed that class. I told her about my own personal demons that I had been fighting for far too long by myself. I told her everything. And then she asked me, Chris, do you want to hurt yourself? I'm like, Carla, I don't know. I knew I did. But I couldn't let my best friend's mom know that. I couldn't let her know. But she knew. She knew what was going on. She wouldn't let me off that phone. And she said, Chris, I know you're in your car. Drive home. I'm gonna talk to you. We're gonna talk as you drive home. And she was like, okay, we'll finish class. You got 2 more weeks, 3 more weeks, however long you have left in that class. And then come out to California, come out to San Diego. So the last day of convergence, I literally I started driving that night. I just drove west. I didn't even set my GPS. I just drove west. So I get to San Diego, and I just am doing my best to be pleasant, be grateful for being where I was, and I was incredibly grateful for being at their house. Her and her husband both said, we have to get you in therapy. And I'm like, I don't know nothing about therapy. I tried it once early in med school. I didn't find it really helpful. Didn't believe in it. Grew up in a culture and community where therapy was for people who are crazy. I don't think I'm crazy, so I'm not gonna do that. And they were like, well, we'll pay for it. We'll do whatever it takes, but you need to go to therapy. So I eventually went to therapy, and eventually we get to a point where he introduces the concept of cognitive behavioral therapy to me. So I said, well, I guess it's worth a shot. We'll try it out, see if it works. So next couple weeks, I'm coming to his office. At one point it was twice a week. Now I'm getting help for my mental health, fine. But for my academic health, which I really did struggle with, really, really did struggle with, I still refused to ask for help because I had developed this horrible mistrust of OMSE. I said, nope, thank you very much. I'm gonna do what I want to do. I'm doing fine. Thank you very much. I don't need you. So I ignored all of the outreach and advice the school gave me because I didn't trust the school anymore. The school got me to the point of wanting to kill myself. Why would I want to listen to them? I eventually took the exam after delaying it 4 times and spending a lot of money delaying it. And I opened an email. And in big letters it says fail. And I am shocked. I mean, it is like, oh my God. Like this is a lot, you know? And this time you gotta do it differently. You can't make the same mistakes you made before because what you did before did not work. So now you have to do something different. And what that means is you have to keep going to see your therapist, seeing a therapist. You have to get a tutor. You have to get someone to help you. And you need to take time for yourself. And you need to take care of yourself. At that point, had the capacity and ability to be okay with failing it. And I now knew that there was help. I could get help. And all I had to do was ask. So I thought about who could it be that would help me with this. Of course, this was Dr. Chosky Kelly. We started getting a plan together, and we completely, overtook my previous study plan and made something different. And what I liked about it is that she made a plan that was best for me. It was the first time in my experience at the school at that point where I actually felt like somebody at this school cares about me. Somebody is actually taking the time to ask me what works for me instead of shoving something down my throat. So I really, really appreciated that. I remember leaving her office the first day, smiling from ear to ear, just so damn happy because I had a plan now. I actually had something to hold on to. It wasn't just me, scrambling for nothing. It was an actual plan. I started seeing a new therapist. We started, talking. And, I tried to be as open-minded as I was when I was in California. And he was able to really just ask the right questions in the right way to get me to talk about something that I really didn't want to talk about. And he introduced this notion that I continue to use to this day, which is really the basis of this entire project, which is growing comfortable with being uncomfortable. I started telling people, yeah, I failed step 1, and I'm studying for it again. But I'm doing well. I'm really doing well right now. I have this great tutor. Like, I'm seeing this really great therapist. Like, my godparents are so supportive of me right now. Like, I could not be in a better position right now. I got a lot of praise. I got a surprisingly large amount of just people being really cool with that. Saying that, oh, Chris, that's so awesome of you. Like, my friend failed step 1. I didn't know that. I thought I was the only person that failed step 1. So, I'm getting all of this like positive feedback that I was not expecting at all. So, yeah, I eventually took it in November and I passed it. Now, granted, I didn't pass it with like stars and rainbows. I passed it though. I did good enough to pass. And I remember being like in my room, reading that email on my phone that I passed, and just having this huge weight lifted off of me. I had finally gotten this thing off of me, and it wasn't the exam. It was the person that I was before I took that exam was a completely different person than it was now. That was a day that changed my entire life because I could see that, okay, asking for help worked, getting therapy worked, being truthful with yourself worked. You can be happy. People out there actually do like you. People out there actually are trying to help you. You have to be open to letting them help you. And so that was the moment in which I had changed my life. In a way, I think that this project is how I'm giving back. But moving forward, is a journey in and of itself.